All right, welcome on in everyone to this episode of First CSP, the channel dedicated to bringing you the first council sorter patch issued from each council in Scouting America, both past and present. Today we're going to take a look at Nassau County 386 out of New York. Council was originally chartered in 1916 and existed up until 1997 when it changed its name to Theodore Roosevelt 386. It's a council we've already highlighted on the channel, so you can go back and check out that episode if you have not seen it. We'll head on over to the patch table for the first issue here. Now, in more recent collecting guides, they have collapsed what were formerly T1AB and T2AB into just T1s and T2s. We do actually have the T1A and B to show you here today. So we'll start off here with what was formerly labeled the T1A, with its red border, white inner border, dark blue background, and the letters and star are going to be listed as gold. So that's the first issue T1A for Nassau County Council. We're going to find that the lettering and star on the first issue are listed as gold, and the T1B are listed as yellow. So very slight distinction in the coloring of the letters between the two issues, and that's probably why they've just collapsed them to call any of them T1s, most notably defined by the star on the map. You can see the back here is a traditional cloth gauze back, and again our first issues are a little bit easier to identify as they do have that star, which is then replaced by the fleur-de-lis in the T2s. So that's the first issue, T1A. We can look at the next one up, which is the T1B. We're going to find that the lettering and the star color here has now moved from the slightly darker gold to the lighter, now listed as yellow. Again, this is in older collecting guides listed as a T1B. So red border, white inner border, same dark blue background, and now the lettering is in yellow. Take a look at the back here. T1B, pretty similar construction, probably constructed around the same time. This definitely seems like a scenario where these were just multiple production runs of the first issue, and so now they just recognize it as a first issue that has had multiple production runs. They no longer make those distinctions of A and B. Be interesting again, I think I've asked this question a couple of times. Lots of strings hanging off on my T1A. What you all think as collectors about those changes as we've gone from previous designations to more recent collecting guides, just kind of collapsing those down as to they're all the first issue. Again, we'll note that these have the star on the map. That's the easiest way to identify now what is a T1. You can see that the font is a little bit darker in the T1As where they're calling that gold, and a little bit lighter where they're calling it yellow in the T1Bs. But they are definitely multiple production runs of essentially the same patch. I mean, there's not some significant change otherwise. From there, we then went to the T2. The T2 similarly had an A and B, where the difference is again the color of the lettering. This would have been formerly a T2A, where we have the red border, white inner border, dark blue background. Now they're calling this a dark yellow fleur-de-lis with yellow letters. The T2A is also defined by its size, being 53 by 129 millimeters. I did measure this one before shooting this episode, and it is at the 129. If you look for the T2B, you're going to find that's 135, which is much, much longer than this T2A. I have just gone with the more recent designation as far as our collecting on the back. I do just list this as a T2, but it was formerly known as a T2A. We don't happen to have the T2B in our collection again. So this is just representative of the T2s, where we now have swapped out the star for the fleur-de-lis logo. Look at the comparison here. The original string T1A to the T2, or what was T2A. Be interesting. We'll kind of slide this in on the side to look at the difference in colors on the lettering. So this is the T2B here, and both of these were listed as yellow. They're not quite exactly the same yellow, but the darkest of any of the shades is certainly the T1A. So that is the first issue for Nassau County 386 out of New York. I hope you have found this informative and entertaining. You're trying to identify the first issue to add it to your collection. I hope this was helpful and useful as well. We'll be back again tomorrow with another brand new episode. But until then, I hope you guys have a great rest of your day.